Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're just going to wait a minute or two so that everyone can get logged in and get comfortable, and we'll get started in just a minute. Thank you for your patience. Happy National Transfer Student Week. My name is LaShawn Price, and I'm the Transfer Program Manager for the Office of Undergraduate Admission at Georgia Tech. First of all, thank you all for taking your time to join our virtual open house, Preview Tech. If you didn't already know, this week is National Transfer Student Week, and our office is super excited to host our very first transfer track. I really wanted to deliver some content that was specific to transfer students, because I understand that your questions are a little more specific now that you have some college coursework underneath your belt. And so I hope that you have found the information sessions and the pathway admission sessions this week helpful. Maybe a few of you have just jumped off one of our transfer pathway sessions into the transfer panel. Just quickly, I wanted to let you know that week 2 is going to focus on academics. This is going to be a greek opportunity for you to learn more about your major from faculty, staff, and students in those current programs. During these sessions, you can ask more in-depth questions as it relates to your major and threads and minors, and they're going to just really be giving a lot of information that's specific to your major here at Georgia Tech. Also, during week 2, we're going to be hosting an advising session, so a general advising session that's going to be put on by the advising office and the registrar's office. And so I know one of the major factors in transferring from one college to the next is how your transfer credits will be articulated and how they're going to fit into the GT program. And so this session is going to provide you an overview of the transfer credit articulation or the credit evaluation process, advising and choosing your courses at facet orientation. And, I've asked them to talk about incorporating a minor or certificate into your current program, as opposed to changing your major. So, a lot of students have a lot of questions about being able to change their major. So definitely tune into the advising session, because that was one of my requests, that they would cover that process, because that's not for transfer students done through the admissions office. You would have to have permissions from different colleges and different programs. So they're going to kind of cover that information during that session next week. So please tune in. Also, if you just jumped off the transfer session, our senior admissions counselor, Seth Bagwell, and myself, we're going to be hosting Connect with a Counselor next week. And so I know a lot of students have signed up, and we're super excited because during those sessions, it's going to be admissions focused again, and we're going to be covering some of the most commonly asked questions. So after you've attended this week's info sessions, if you still have questions about which courses you need to take, you still have questions about satisfying the English proficiency requirement, if you have questions about how to use your credit by exam, so your AP, IB, A-level, these are all questions that we're going to answer in great detail at next week's session. Also, the third week is all about student resources and activities. So if you're interested in learning more about fraternities and sororities or international and study abroad opportunities, career fairs, innovation and startup opportunities, that's going to be the week for you. And I did want to specifically point out that there's going to be a transfer focus session called Get in the Game and Navigating GT Resources. It's going to be hosted by the SEED office. And the SEED office is the Center for Engineering, Education, and Diversity. And so although a majority of the students that take advantage of the resources that the SEED office provides are students from the College of Engineering, but their reach extends to students across the institute. And so they have an impact with over 40% of our total student body. So pretty sure that their office is going to be hosting a panel style session with current transfer students as well. And so really want to let you know that if you've got questions about all the support services that are offered to transfer students here, please, please, please sign up for that session on week 3. So quickly, I just want to touch on a few things before we jump into the panel. Georgia Tech has always focused its efforts on developing leaders that use their innovative skills and their strong work ethic to solve real world problems and improve the lives of people around the globe. And if you've had the opportunity to attend any of our information sessions, then you've seen some of the information that's on the screen before. For example, we have the largest voluntary co-op program in the US with more than 700 businesses, industries, and organizations through the US and abroad. And so our students just really have a lot of access to work expertise and work experience. And even during a pandemic, over 80% of our May graduates finished with a job offer. But as not to repeat any of the information that you've heard before, I just wanted to kind of touch on some other hands-on opportunities that are available. We have an invention studio, and it's run by a student organization, and all students, staff, and faculty can basically go into the studio and build their dream project. And whether that's for research or personal or academic use, all of the tools are 100% free. They have phototyping instructors who will help direct you on how to operate the tool. So if you don't have past tool experience, you can definitely get the training that you need to come into that space and be creative. We also have the interdisciplinary design commons, so it's better known as the Hive Makerspace. And so although it's catering specifically to electronic and computer engineers, the Makerspace is the largest of its kind, and it's a hands-on learning environment where students can really work together to design different technology. And so there's a wood shop and 3D printers and laser cutters. And once again, this space, it's open to the whole Georgia Tech community. And so it's not just specifically for engineering students, right? All of the different majors have access, all the different years have access. If you have no experience, you have access. If you're experienced, you have access, And so it's not just, once again, you don't have to just be an engineer to be able to take advantage of a lot of opportunities that are open to our students. So what happens if engineering is not your major, or if you're interested in public policy and literature, media, and communication? So if you've heard in our previous sessions, all of our 36 majors are technology focused, right? And so the College of Computing and the Ivan Allen College of Liberal Arts, they've launched the Ethics, Technology, and Human Interaction Center. So it's the Ethics Center. And this center conducts research into ethics of emerging technologies. So yes, we have computer sciences and we have engineers, but we really want to conduct research on ethical questions around technology as well, and social justice and equity within that technology. And so this is a place where the best of the science and the best of the humanities meet to challenge each other, to push each other, to ask those unanswered and important questions. And then for students who really have an entrepreneurial spirit, we have CreateX and Adventure Prize. And even for Adventure Prize, it was created in 2009, and it's very similar to Shark Tank. So if you watch Shark Tank, that's kind of what our Adventure Prize is. And back in 2018, a transfer student, Kobe Hanley, actually won and took home the $20,000 prize with UltraView, and he was a competitive archer. And so using GCT resources, right, all these maker spaces and access to professors and other students with skills, he was really able to refine his product, which was an archery scope with integrated lighting. And so he was able to start his own startup company, okay? And then he, of course, won a venture prize. And actually, this past December, now he's a CEO, Kobe Hanley actually celebrated a milestone of surpassing $1 million in revenue. And so once again, Georgia Tech is an institution of thinkers, of creators, of magic makers, of dreamers, and designers, and just people who get things done. And, I'm glad that you joined us tonight because, we're just really going to get an opportunity to meet some of those Georgia Tech students. So panelists, if you would please go ahead and turn on your camera for me. I'm going to give you a second to get set up. Turn on your cameras. The big smile. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to have another panelist who's going to join us in just a few minutes. She is getting out of class, right? Because you guys are students. But we're definitely going to get started. She's going to hop in and we're going to keep this ball rolling tonight. Okay, so panelists, excuse me, participants. So we're going to have a few topics that we're going to cover. So we have a few questions that we're already prepared to answer, and then we're going to open up the floor to your questions so you can begin to drop your questions in the Q&A section. If you see a question in the Q&A section, so not in the chat section, but the Q&A section, if you see a question in the Q&A section that you want someone to answer, please like that question. Once again, we have some questions that we're going to go through, and then we're going to open up the floor and choose some questions from the Q&A section. And so I'm going to pick on someone, Joanna, who's part of our Transfer Student Association, and I think you're doing an Instagram Live takeover tomorrow. So if you guys don't currently follow us or check out our social media, please make sure to check out our Instagram tomorrow with the Transfer Student Association. Joanna, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, you can provide your first name and what year you are here at Georgia Tech, your major, your transfer path here. So were you a regular transfer student? Did you receive a pathway? Are you a dual degree, so getting 2 degrees? What your previous institution was, so where you transferred from, or if you've attended more than one institution, and your favorite class. I'm going to leave the slide up, but also what's so far been your favorite class at Georgia Tech?
Yeah, thank you so much, LaShawn. Hi, everyone. My name is Joanna, and this is going to be my 3rd year at Georgia Tech since I transferred. I transferred in fall of 2019, so I've been here for quite a while. But I'm majoring in chemical engineering, and I'm also minoring in linguistics. And I was a regular transfer, so if you have questions about that, I love answering questions concerning the transferring process. I'm the current president of the Transfer Student Association, so I and a bunch of other student organizations are really committed to helping transfers adjust to campus and answering questions about the experience in general. And I think my favorite class right now is my Sustainability in Japan class. It's really cool and combines bits of science and history and cultural discovery. So I'm having a really good time here. And I also transferred from Georgia State, if any of you are possibly transferring from there.
Julia?
Hello, everyone. My name is Julia, and I'm a 3rd-year biology major on the pre-med track. So I was a regular transfer student, and I came from Auburn University. I've been here for 2 years now, and it's been a great experience. So far, my favorite class has been genetics lab. That's when I really figured out my major and why I was doing it. it really put me on track for future research and just like my future career. So
Thank you so much. We're going to go on to our first question. So now that we know a little bit about our panelists, we're going to start the first portion, which will be a panel discussion. We have a few questions, which were chosen by our panelists. The collective, because we felt like these questions were definitely appropriate and important to transfer students. And I will say that I definitely feel like our panelists today are the subject matter experts because they have all successfully navigated this transfer process. And so we'll go ahead and get started. So the first question, I wanted to put all the questions on the screen. That way you were able to see what questions that we're going to ask. And that way, if you see that a question, you have a burning question that you want to ask and it's not going to be asked, that you could drop that question in the Q&A, and then you can like any questions that you want our panelists to ask at the end of the session. So I think one of the common questions that students are probably wondering is about the academic coursework. So is the academic coursework extremely rigorous? So do you want to talk about like your course load, what classes you're in, how many semester hours, maybe that transition from your current institution to the new institution, and a little bit about that experience and how you've been able to adapt? Julia, do you want to go first?
yes, I would love to. So I think it's definitely a change, but for me, it was a good change. So at Auburn, I took very similar courses. I took like 2 lab sciences per each semester, and I'm doing that here now and sometimes more since I'm more into my major now. And I think it's definitely a challenging, like my courses are very challenging and it can sometimes seem like a lot, but I know like that these courses are preparing me for my future in medical school. And luckily, there's so many resources at Tech that help with your courses. So that's very good. And I think it's important to figure out like to gauge how many classes take and not to take based on like doing things outside of classes and stuff. So I usually try to take around like 16 to 14 credit hours because I'm very busy outside of classes too. So I think it's good to find a balance here because the classes are hard, but totally manageable if you put the great effort into them.
Joanna, would you like to chime in on the academic coursework and the rigor?
Yeah. So I guess the reaction that I usually get when I tell people I do chemical engineering is something along the lines of, wow, like good luck. And I guess that is kind of warranted. It is really hard, I won't lie. But that's part of why I chose tech as a school, at least. I wanted to be challenged, and the difficulty doesn't discourage me so much because everybody is going through it at the same time. So there's a lot of community, I guess, surrounding how difficult the coursework is, but it's also really challenging and rewarding at the same time because you get the opportunity to build relationships with your professors, with your TAs who have already taken the classes, and I just personally find it really rewarding. So if you enjoy learning and if you enjoy knowing that the skills that you're learning are going to be applicable and might even be immediately applicable depending on whether you do research, if you go into an internship or co-op. And a lot of the classes have like some kind of project or hands-on component anyway, so there's definitely opportunities to grow in terms of your skills and your knowledge. So to me, the rigor is kind of what you sign up for when you come to tech. And it's definitely doable, and I think it's worth it in the end.
Well, Joanna, since you still have turned your mic off, well, we can turn it back on. So I'm going to go to the second question to you as well. So what type of resources are available to students, or what type of resources do you use when you need that additional assistance in the classroom?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that makes tech special, especially in the state of Georgia, is how many resources there are just for students to help other students. There's so many people at the school who get paid to help us succeed, and people are genuinely invested in your success as a student, and they really try to make you feel that way. So a lot of the resources that I love taking advantage of, so we have a center called the Center for Academic Success, and through them they offer a lot of tutoring services, like we call it one-to-one tutoring, which is where you can sign up to be tutored by somebody who took the class that you were in, who got an A in the class that you were in, I believe. And it's like a one-to-one hour-long session where you get to talk to them about whatever you want to talk to them about. In addition to going to office hours and talking to your TAs, of course, which is kind of advice you get everywhere you go for college, but specifically at Georgia Tech, I've had an amazing experience with the one-to-one services. That individualized tutoring is just really special to me. And then we also have like other resources that are a little bit more systematic, I suppose. Like there are classes that are specifically set up to help you succeed. So there's a class called the Study Strategy Seminar, something along those lines, and that class is literally just about helping students with academic success. And you know, you're in a class with like maybe 20 students or so, and they give you resources, and I believe it's usually someone from the career, from the Center for Academic Success Center. And you just really have this sense that people are really pushing you to succeed when you're here at Tech, from the different classes that are offered to help you succeed, the optional tutoring sessions you can go to. There are even like drop-in help desks and drop-in tutoring sessions if you don't want to make appointments ahead of time. Professors, of course, are always like the best place to go as well if you find yourself ever struggling with coursework, because they're the ones who made the course. So naturally, they probably have the best resources to teach you how to be successful. And they're also really good connections to make, period, either during your time at Georgia Tech, or maybe even once you graduate. Having these connections might be a lifelong benefit for you. So I personally feel very supported academically at Georgia Tech, and I think it's one of its greatest strengths.
Thank you so much. Julia, do you want to talk about some of the services that you use in the College of Sciences?
Yes. So I think one big thing in the College of Sciences that I've noticed is lots of the teaching assistants host review sessions and really want to get to know you one-on-one, especially when there's a small amount of people in your classes. They're open to helping you, and like they went through the classes too, so they're very open with helping you and hosting review sessions, which is great. And then also a big thing in big chemistry, biology classes are plus sessions. These are also in other major courses, but these are student-led sessions that happen weekly to just go over extra problems and just prepare you for the material and make sure you understand it. And I think those are really helpful resources in addition to what Joanna said. I think one big thing of advice is to not be scared to use these resources, because they are helpful and they will help you succeed. And so many people use them and they are very good.
Thank you, Julia. So, Julia, I'm going to ask you on the next question, how can transfer students pursue internships or co-ops? What about research opportunities? So do I have to go to a college fair to find research? Is it posted somewhere? Is there a research board on campus where I could go find that? Or do I just need to talk to my professor? You know, talk about like some of the opportunities that maybe you've taken advantage of, and then like how you found out about that opportunity. And all of us online, you know, it's going to be open to transfer students because we have transfer students talking about it today.
Yes, so of course. So one super easy way that's very accessible is just talking with your professors. They are very open to wanting you to learn or for you to join them on their research. I think it's great conversation to always go to the office hours and be like, oh, like, what is your research? What are you doing? Like, how can I get involved with your research or one of your other mentors or assistants? So that's one easy way to get involved in research. You can also do that for internships and co-op opportunities. Just ask your professor about these opportunities. They're very open and willing to help you. Another resource is there's the grad research ambassadors. So they host sessions to help you find research. They will do one-on-one calls with you and go through your major to see the options that are available that you can apply for. So I think the big thing is just to be open to ask people to find opportunities. There are opportunities online. Usually you can just look up your major with like research or internships, and you can usually find something about that and usually a contact information. So I think the big thing is just communicating with people to find these options.
Joanna, do you want to talk about if you currently looking? Have you had an internship or co-op? Are you currently looking? Do you do research? How do you find those opportunities?
Yeah, so I am looking for internships and things like that, but I'm also trying to keep my options open for other things like potentially studying abroad and things like that, knock on wood. But currently I am involved in research, and I found out about my research professor through a research fair. There are all kinds of fairs and events happening on campus all the time. You just have to check your emails for them usually. And they were doing like a research showcase or something for professors to present what their lab was like and all the different projects that they're doing, to encourage undergrads, and I guess maybe grads too, to be interested in research, to kind of evaluate where they see themselves fitting. And there's such a wide variety of research being done at this school that maybe it's a bit overwhelming at first, figure out what you're interested in. And that's totally fine because professors love talking about their research. So you really can just email a professor and be like, hi, I think I'm interested in your field of work, and set up a meeting with them to talk about it. And if it seems like a good fit, you can move forward and join their research lab. If it's not, you can ask them for resources that might be better suited to you. Professors really want to help all students. They're not really going to turn you away if you're not in their department or anything like that. So I guess like Julia said, like being brave and intentional about the connections you make is so important and so valuable. And then I guess leading more on the internships and co-oping, one thing that I've noticed is really impressive to me is the number of companies that do info sessions at Georgia Tech. Every single week, maybe every day even, there's always some kind of company that's trying to recruit students here. Some of the big ones that I've attended sessions for are like Facebook, Airbnb, a consulting company I'm interested in applying for, lots of like power and like oil companies because I'm with chemical engineering, like Valero and Exxon and people like them, Procter and Gamble, like any company you can think of. They're probably trying to recruit from Georgia Tech. So we have a ton of resources and a big culture surrounding encouraging students to pursue internships and teaching students how to be professional, how to build resumes, how to build a presence either on LinkedIn or through an online portfolio. The list goes on of like career resources. My goodness, you can talk all day about career resources at Georgia Tech, but and those are some of the big ones.
Joanna, did you say you were seeking study abroad?
Yes.
How would I find that opportunity? What things are you doing to seek that type of opportunity?
Right, yeah. So again, there's like lots of fairs for everything, and this is another thing that they like to do fairs for. Throughout the year, you just have to like look for the flyers and the emails, and you can also reach out to the Office of International Education. They handle a lot of these study abroad programs if you're interested in them. There's so many different programs depending on your major. For instance, I know an ISYE or an industrial engineering student who was in Germany over the summer. We have a campus in France. We call it GT Lorraine or GTL, and a lot of students go there because you can easily take your Georgia Tech classes in France over the summer. Hopefully that's the one I'll be doing, but we'll see what happens with COVID. But yeah, I think the best way to see if your program or if there are programs that align with your interests is to look at all the online offerings. There's a portal that has all of the available study abroad programs that is linked through the OIE website if you're interested, and you can set up an application and just filter, see what suits your interests, and yeah, lots of opportunities at Tech.
Great, thank you so much. And I think that we have our third panelist, Naomi, on the line with us now. And so I'm just going to give her a chance to introduce herself. And so I've changed the slides. Naomi, if you could please give us your first name, your year, and your major here at Georgia Tech, and then what pathway did you come into Georgia Tech? So are you just a regular transfer student? Are you a dual degree student? Did you receive a pathway? What previous institutions that you've attended? And what's your favorite class so far at Georgia Tech?
Awesome, thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Naomi Eliana Edward. I'm currently I am a senior in biomedical engineering at Tech. And I came through their dual degree program in partnership with the AUC. I came from Spelman College specifically. And my favorite class at Tech was my BMed 2250 class, which was essentially us designing or trying to address health disparity. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I'm actually going to throw to the next question to you so we could just get to hear your perspective. So could you talk about any programs or events that are specifically designed for transfer students? So any programs, events, activities that you know that are for transfer students?
Yeah, so particularly that I'm aware of, the SEED office has a program called P2P, which is for minority students to get connected to people that are in majors similar to theirs, and to just have guidance or receive guidance from people who also might have transferred or been at Tech and are in a similar major. So P2P has that program in addition to the OMED, the OMED office. They also have programs such as EDGE, and Tribe is a part of NSBE. So these are particularly like minority focused transfer programs to just serve as resources to people that are coming in. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And earlier I mentioned the SEED office, and remember they're going to be doing a session the third week about navigating the Georgia Tech resources. So I'm glad that she brought that up as well, right? So that we're going to attend that session on the third week. Joanna, do you want to talk about any programs or events that are specifically designed for transfer students?
Yes, I have so much knowledge about these things. So definitely if you really do want to transfer, please reach out to me. I love talking about this. But again, I'm the president of the Transfer Student Association, which was formed specifically by transfer students for transfer students. It started off in the chemical engineering department, actually, and our first advisor was one of the current advisors for chemical engineering. So there's been a long history of transfer students wanting to support other transfer students and build a community, and that's what our organization really stands for. Some of the things that we do mostly socializing events, because we realize how important it is to have a community and have people to fall back on. When academics get tough, at least you have people that are here to support you, you know. So that's one of the major parts of the Tech experience that we like to enhance and contribute to. And we also like to work a lot with other clubs on campus. So we like to get our general body members connected with other people on campus outside of TSA as well. So We have worked with Tribe in the past, which stands for, I believe, the Transfer Retention Initiatives for Black Engineers, and it's a subset of NSBE. And we had a fun little event with them last year. And we've also worked with BMETS. I believe they're a biomedical engineering specific club for transfer students. So there's a lot of student organizations and I guess like grassroots movements for transfer students to band together based on the different commonalities that they have. Community is a big thing here. And then I guess aside from socializing and things like that, in terms of academics and advising, I can speak mostly on how the chemical engineering department has done it, but Chemi is wonderful with their transfer students. So we obviously have our own transfer facet, and at that transfer facet, they had a little transfer panel of students who were transfer students and had done the different concentrations that we have within our chemical engineering degree. And we have a specific counselor who we see during our first semester at Tech who is experienced with transfer students and gave us recommendations on classes to take. We were assigned a faculty mentor, which means that within the College of Chemical Engineering, within the School of Chemical Engineering, one of the faculty members, so a professor you might be taking classes with, you were assigned to one and you were required to meet with them just to talk to them about whatever you were interested in talking about so that you can get connected to a faculty member at Tech and build professional connections. And they also had a transfer-specific recitation for our chemies who were transferring in to their first chemical engineering class because that class is so hard. So the recitation was only transfer students, and there was a really strong sense of community, I feel like. Yeah, there was just a lot of attention given to transfer students that I wasn't expecting when I came in. So every department is unique in the ways that they handle their students because every curriculum is unique. So there are a lot of different programs like that that you can look forward to if you transfer in.
What's happening on Friday?
Oh, yeah. So tomorrow, October 22nd at 7 p.m., we're going to be having we're calling it a little Halloween bonfire, Spooktober with TSA. So we will be at the fire pits in the courtyard of West Village, which is a dining hall on our campus. And you can reserve those for free. We're just going to have a relaxed get together with all of our transfer students. We actually had a bonfire 2 months ago at the beginning of school. So now this is kind of like our follow-up bonfire to be like, how are you guys adjusting? What's going on? Like, we're going to be sharing stories around the bonfire and things like that. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so we're going to, wrap up this portion of the session with a question about paying for college. After that, we're going to open up the floor to your questions. So once again, you can use the Q&A section to drop your questions. If you see a question already in there that you want students to answer, please go ahead and like that question. In a few seconds, we're going to jump into the Q&A section and start answering them. But I know I personally wanted to add this question to the poll because I know that paying for college is often the most significant concerns for many students. And what you may not know is there's quite a few opportunities to help finance your educational goals. And so I just wanted the panelists to talk a little bit about different ways that they are able to help finance the tuition and fees at Georgia Tech. So Naomi Alana, would you like to start?
Yes. So I am both an out-of-state student and, I'm a transfer. So one thing about kind of like how I've gone about paying for both of my institutions is just to actively search for scholarships. And then another thing that really supported me was following my first academic year at Georgia Tech, and I achieved a 3.0 plus GPA or 3.5 plus GPA, and I was able to vouch for myself, and the scholarship office gave me a scholarship. In addition to that, the SEED office, through their P2P program and other supportive measures do work to look for scholarships for you, or ways to support you with scholarships and funding that the office has. So I think it's both a combination of making sure you maintain your grades and then just using the resources around you. In order for me to get that support, I literally just wrote an email and said, yeah, I'm an out-of-state student, and I performed, because they just want to trust that as a transfer, you're able to stay through the duration of the program. So once you show your commitment to engineering and this program, they'll support you.
And I just want to be clear, and that we're all clear. So the scholarship opportunities that you're speaking of were opportunities that opened up for you once you were already a Georgia Tech student. Those were not necessarily scholarships that came from the financial aid office at Georgia Tech.
Yes, they gained my GPA.
Okay.
Because as a transfer, I'm sure we already discussed this, as a transfer, you don't have a GPA.
Okay, thank you for that. And Julia, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe some different opportunities and ways that you help finance and creative ways to pay for Georgia Tech?
Yes. So kind of like what we were talking about earlier with academic resources, I'm an undergraduate TA here. So this is a way for me to make some money to help pay for school while also like getting prepared for teaching. So I get to like teach students in the biology classes. So this helps prepare me for medical school while also just kind of a fun, enjoyable thing that I like to do. So it's easy because it's about like 10 hours a week, and you get to work with a mentor and you get to meet so many cool people, and that's a great opportunity. And then I also work for the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. I think a couple of us do. So we get to work with lots of you guys answering phone calls and emails. And it's just a great way to make some money to help pay for school while also just having not too many hours, and just a way to, I guess, get involved while also being productive.
And Julia, just quickly, how did you find the TA opportunity? Did your professor ask you to do it, or is that something that you were seeking? Could you just tell us quickly like how you found that opportunity?
Yes, so I talked about my favorite class at the beginning of this, and it was genetics lab. So I really enjoyed it, and I told the professor how much I loved the class, and she asked me to TA for the next semester. So I was able to have the opportunity through getting to know my professor and building that connection. And now I'm hopefully going to be able to TA for hopefully the rest of my college experience, because I think it's a great experience. So it's easy to get involved with TAing. Also, certain majors will send out a Google form basically, and you can say like what classes you're interested in TAing, why you want to TA, and just like some resources to help you. And lots of students do just get job opportunities through this. So again, like we were talking about earlier, it's about building connections and being okay with reaching out and putting yourself out there.
Joanna, did you have anything to add to that creative ways to pay?
Yeah, so in addition to working as a student assistant, I also work in the admissions office with Julia. I also just recently accepted another on-campus job with the Candida building, which is a new sustainable building on our campus. So I think the key to like finding these on-campus jobs is to read your emails, and they usually try to post these things in very visible places so that you know these openings are available. And there are also some offices that are, they specifically hire work-study students to make sure that there are positions available for them. So I know that there are LGBTQ resource centers, a place like that. And then I guess other creative ways that I've taken advantage of, I do have an off-campus job as well that I do on the weekends. I work at a COVID testing site. And I also participate in research studies that are paid. I guess a lot of people don't talk about doing that, but I guess that's the benefit of going to school in a city like Atlanta that has so many colleges in its proximity. Tech often has a lot of research labs looking for participants, and sometimes they're willing to pay you or they'll give you a gift card or something. I'm currently doing a medical trial with Emory. So some of these opportunities are a little bit more, they're not like, you kind of just have to be creative about how you find them. I think I found mine through Facebook because I guess they know my location and everything. So, but I guess if you're interested in doing stuff like research studies or maybe unique little paid jobs here and there, research is a cool place because people definitely need participants. So you can probably look up universities and see if they have any kind of pages like that. And there are some websites like Mechanical Turk and things like that where people also pay you to participate in research. So.
Great, thank you so much. So that kind of wraps up the questions that we prepare that we felt like were important that we wanted to talk about. And each panelist is going to go into the Q&A section and choose a question. And I think someone said they have one. I'm fine with whoever. Julia, I think you have a question that you're going to answer. Do you want to read that question live and then provide your answer?
Yes, sounds good. So the question I was going to answer that got lots of likes was, do most transfer students live on campus or go off campus? And how does the whole process work in general? So personally, I have lived on campus. So that was the easiest for me just because it is a little bit of a quick turnaround, but there's also lots of opportunities to live off campus. Usually you can join a Facebook page to find different subleases or apartments. There's lots of options around campus and on campus for housing. And also the whole process for on-campus housing is if you get accepted to Georgia Tech and you accept your acceptance, you get put on a list and you can say like, oh yeah, I want housing. And then usually like I think 2 weeks later you can go through and pick your housing basically. So it's a very easy process, and there are many on-campus apartments, and I think there's actually a transfer apartment building too. So those are just a little bit of the answer.
And Naomi, Eliana, do you want to answer that? I think it will be an interesting perspective. Did you live on Spelman's campus as well? And do you live on campus here now that you go to Georgia Tech? Surprise.
Yes. So when I transferred over, I was actually living in on-campus, off-campus housing while attending Spelman College, and I left that in order to move on campus to Georgia Tech. And I've been living in H Street East since I've transferred. One, I did that in order for me to have a better social life and acclimate to this environment. But I would agree that the process was pretty simple in terms of completing my application, being accepted, and then putting the housing application alongside my academic application. And it also helped that as a dual degree transfer, we have a liaison that represents DDEP transfers, and you just send her an email and just say, yeah, I would also like housing, and they support you with that process. So
I just want to touch, for those of you who attended the transfer pathway sessions, I think Seth gave both sessions, but he did talk about the dual degree program. So remember, there was like the first year pathways, and then there was the dual degree in rep and the veterans. And so when she said DD, she's dual degree. So she was at one of our partner institutions actually getting two degrees, one from Spelman and one from Georgia Tech. Okay, and so for those of you who are joining us tonight who are actually applied for the spring semester, we hope to release decisions. I'm like feverishly reading all your applications all day today prior to the session. I'm trying to get decisions ready to go out prior to November 1st. Once you get your decision, if you receive an offer in admissions, you can then put in a housing application. So I just kind of, you were wondering how that was working, just kind of wanted to put it out there. You've got to be accepted to then get on the list for housing. Does anybody, ladies, does anybody have another question that they want to answer from the chat?
I think I saw a question that was asking more specifically about like what it was like to transfer from GSU to Georgia Tech, but I think we can all comment on what was it like transferring from your old campus to this campus. So So I guess I could go first with that, but obviously Georgia State was in downtown Atlanta, and it was really cool because it was integrated into the city. So I actually really liked that because it was kind of like I could treat going to class like it was a job, and you walk out of your class building and you're with all these businessmen going to lunch, and it was a really interesting environment, and it's very different at Tech. Tech is very much a college campus in Midtown, and it's not as permeable as GSU was. So Georgia Tech is really large and walkable. It makes you really feel like you're on a college campus and you're with other college students. So I loved both campuses, to be honest. They both have their strengths. Yeah.
So I guess one question that I would want to answer was just a discussion about being able to communicate with advisors. I'm not sure about the face-to-face component, but I know like if you guys are considering or having additional questions that you want to ask an advisor, you can definitely reach out via email because a lot of their emails are listed on the major prospective websites. But also make sure you consider like when you're reaching out to them because their top priority is current students. And we will have moments where it's time for us to register for our next semester classes, and they'll be navigating that. But they are definitely open to questions. I've offered a number of tours. I've been offered a number of tours and have toured incoming students through the BME department. And yeah, so that's definitely something you can put on your radar.
Does anyone want to talk about advising? Now, I'm not a student at Georgia Tech, but I do know typically that transfer students, once you get accepted, then you get to sign up for FACET orientation. And I know FACET orientation is where you meet with an advisor and register for courses. Does anyone have are you meeting with your advisors on a regular basis? Are they available to you? Advising is giving a session next week. I know you're like, that lady talks a lot. Yeah, I asked them to come because I thought it was important that you hear from them. So they will be giving the session next week, the advising session, right? And so yes, please chime in on any advising information that you want to provide.
I would say that I attended FACET, and it was very nice that I got an opportunity to meet a couple students that were going to be in my major in advance. In terms of advising, the BME advisor that I have, Paul and Caitlin, they are super helpful, and they're available at all times. I had a thought that I wasn't answering. What was your initial question?
Just anything that you wanted to add about, advising here, as I know a lot of students have questions about advising and just wanting to kind of let students know how that process works once they were accepted.
Okay. One thing that I wanted to highlight is that the advisors, they're super privy to like what program you might be coming from, depending on like how long they've been at Tech. So they can offer you so much guidance on how to navigate whatever incoming credits you may have, as well as like how you need to progress with your matriculation through Tech. So make sure like you're coming from college, you've already established building schedules previously at your last institution, but make sure you just kind of like tap into that network because it is a resource and they can help you and they are very helpful.
Yeah. So, do you recommend that students attend FACET? Because I get a lot of emails, like once a student gets accepted and then we email students about FACETs, I get emails in the admissions office. So if you email the admissions inbox, it's me. And they're asking me, is it important that I go to FACET? So can you talk about like maybe why it's important that a student show up to FACET, especially for those students who may be getting an admissions decision by November 1st?
So I guess I can share a little bit of insight. So I think I talked earlier about how the chemical engineering department handled my FACET, whereas we got very individualized advising and we were able to get perspectives from other transfer students on their experience. And Of course, if we wanted to build connections with them, we could have reached out to them. So I do think going to Facet is important, just so you can at least meet your advisor at the very least. That is really important. And I believe that you have to go to Facet, to be honest, to register for your classes unless you have extenuating circumstances. I don't know if you guys had a similar experience. That's what we were told, at least when I transferred in. But yeah, I definitely do think it's worth it. They have different sessions to inform you about like all kinds of stuff going on at Tech. Like I think the Georgia Tech Police Department had an info session. There was a session for international students if you were interested in like sports or something like that. So it doesn't hurt. It's one day of your life. I do think it's worth it. You might even, I know a lot of people who actually made friends at Facet too. So I definitely think it's worth giving it a shot.
Julia, do you want to give your experience with Facet before we wrap up this evening?
Yes, so I actually kind of had a little different experience with Facet because it was during the middle of COVID, so it was all online. So it was a little bit different. I didn't get the full experience, and I really wish I would have because we were only online for like 2 hours. So it was great to be able to have help with my academic advising, but I think I would have loved to be on campus and to directly meet other transfer students. So I would encourage it.
For sure, for sure. Well, we're just approaching 7 o'clock and it's our hour. And, I just want to definitely thank you all for joining us, but definitely thank our panelists, our subject experts. Okay, I'm super excited that we were able to host the session. I hope that you found the information helpful. Once again, tomorrow on our Instagram. So it's going to be on the Georgia Tech Admission Instagram. Wait, now, Joanna, help me if I'm wrong, okay? But I'm pretty sure that the Transfer Student Association is doing a takeover, but they're taking over the admission Instagram. Am I correct?
Yes, it's the admission Instagram.
Okay, yeah. So if you don't currently follow us, please do so that you can check out TSA's activities tomorrow evening. Remember, we have more workshops and sessions to offer for the next 2 weeks. Once again, I hope that you found them helpful, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you, and have a great evening.